Food waste is like 25% of the waste stream. If we could take out some of the wettest, heaviest, and bulkiest stuff in the waste stream, our landfills fill up slower. There's a lot of systems savings to keeping food out of trash.
Matt Rogers, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So it was a little over a decade ago. You leave Apple, you start Nest Labs, reimagine the thermostat, prompt people to think about energy usage in their home in a whole new way. Full disclosure, we have nests, plural, in our house. And of course, really leaning into sustainability, climate tech in your entrepreneurial journey. And now you've decided to lean into the problem of food waste and launching Mill. Let's start with, what is it? And why did you focus on this as the problem you want to solve?
I'm a student of climate. Have spent the last 15 years getting as deep as you can imagine. And I didn't know how bad the food waste problem was. It's like, wow. Food waste is like 8 to 10% of our emissions globally. It's an enormous amount. Wow. It's up there with like the auto industry. It's like 3 times the airline industry.
And isn't even in landfills itself, it's actually like of the different inhabitants of a landfill, food waste is it number one?
That's right. So when we throw food in the trash, it doesn't just go away. It goes to landfill and it degrades without oxygen, which means it releases methane, which is poison for the atmosphere. So we managed to take something that's awesome, food that we love, and turn it into poison for the world. And this is something this doesn't make sense to me. So I started this company, Mill, to make it really easy to keep food out of landfill. And that's what it's all about. We've created a product for us to use at home that makes it really easy to keep food out of landfill. It's this beautiful bin. I think you have one at home.
Full disclosure, I am a customer, which I think, Matt, when we were scheduled, you didn't even know. We have it on home and we love it.
It's a great product. Who likes stinky trash? So we've made a bin that makes food waste completely odorless, that takes all the kind of wet stuff that we're done with and turns it into what looks like coffee grounds. So it's great.
I think for some people, they might associate this with just sort of high-speed composting, that they think of composting, you putting, some food waste in a bin in the back of your house or outside your apartment, and then it's it's a couple months. This is overnight. Walk us through sort of a step-by-step.
So Mill takes all the food that we don't eat. So meat, dairy, fish bones, avocado pits,
whatever's left.
Throw it all in there. And overnight, it automatically dehydrates it, takes the water out. And what's cool about that is food is 80% water. So when you take the water out, it gets really small, which means it takes weeks to fill up this trash bin. So you're not taking out the trash every day anymore. You're hardly taking it out once a month. It's great on the chore side. And what's great is when you take the water out, also it doesn't go bad. It's shelf stable. Especially think about, I grew up in Florida too. So I know what that heat is like. Having rotting food in a trash bag at the curb or in your trash bin outside. Oh man, it's a nightmare. So dehydration is key.
So then it turns it into this feed.
Yeah, it just dried food. And what's great is Mill has built a whole system to then collect that dried food and get it back to farms to be used as feed.
So, and that's the thing, right? When people talk about a circular economy, you're trying to make it real. Someone puts their leftover, their pieces of chicken or fish and a little bit of salad, whatever you don't eat, goes into the mill, overnight, dehydrated, turns it into this animal feed, which is then sent to farms to feed chickens.
Correct.
I have that about right?
Circle. Look, and when we started, we didn't set out to do this all. When we started the company, we were building this magic kitchen bin. And then we realized, in most parts of the country, there's no means of getting your food waste to somewhere better. Only about 5% of the US has municipal collection for food waste. Most food just goes in the trash. We had to build the full system. That said, now that the company is growing and scaling, we're starting to build more local partnerships with cities, with haulers in cities on how to get this material to great local uses too.
So why don't we just sort of center us on sort of the journey of the company, when you launched, when Mill's starting arriving at people's homes, sort of where are we on
Yes.
on the
So we
journey?
started the company, oh man, right in the middle of the pandemic in 2020. So,
Okay.
and the first couple of years were very much about designing and engineering and building the product. We announced the company back in January, so almost a year ago. We started shipping to our first customers in April and been kind of off to the races ever since, like trying to build as many as we can and satisfy demand. But it's only been a year. And what's great about our first loop, our first circular loop, as you mentioned, is we partnered with the U.S. Postal Service, who are coming to your house every day anyway. So like,
Yeah.
it's kind of a great means of collecting this material, and because it's dry, like it's like a shoebox a month. It's no big deal.
And having experienced it, when you're ready to send your batch in, actually on the app, you just sort of hit time for pickup, and then the next day the Postal Service is there to pick it up. And you provide the boxes.
That's right. We provide everything. And you can imagine, like, as we grow, I mean, this is our first year. Like, when you're clicking that button in the app, maybe a local farm is coming to pick it up, or like a local community composter, or your local CSA is coming to pick the stuff up, or maybe there's a community garden that needs this dry material, or maybe it's even a neighbor. Like, as the company scales, we're going to build more and more local loops so that we can keep food in the local community.
Yeah, because I mean, right now we get an email saying, this is what you've saved by doing this, but also there were some costs. I mean, there's a carbon footprint from this being put on an airplane, sent off to a farm someplace else.
It's a vastly carbon negative process, but still, like, we would rather feed a local farm than a farm that we have a partnership with somewhere in the center of the country. Like, it'd be really nice to keep food in the community.
So how to make this work, and talk us through right now the revenue model. Right now, it's a subscription model. You pay $33 a month, I think what it is right now.
That's right.
You get a bin, and then you can send as many batches.
Included. That's right.
Then it's all included, all in that. Where's this going?
We started that way because it felt like the simplest way to explain it. Like, this is a very new thing. I think, like, as the company grows and scales, we're going to meet people where they are and build services and products for what they need for their community. For example, like, if you've got a backyard and or you've got chickens, or you've got a garden and you want to use this material yourself, awesome. Like, you don't need to use our collection service. Like, you can use it yourself. And hey, I'm committed. I want to just buy this thing. I think we'll provide that too.
Right now, where I'll just use myself as an example. I live in the city of Miami, right? And so pay property taxes. They come and they pick up the trash. They pick up the recycling. And now I've chosen to pay more to deal with food waste. Now, I don't know how many people, really thinking at scale, how many people would want to add that extra cost to their lives. How are you thinking about that, and where is this going?
At scale. Let's talk about, like, for the whole country, or
Sure.
really the whole planet. Every city provides waste services to their residences, and we pay monthly, annually, or maybe it's in our property taxes or in our HOAs. We're paying for this service today. Now, what if those services could also do the right thing for the planet too? And we're actually, even in our first year, are starting to explore some partnerships with a few cities and waste companies around the country to kind of just include this in the waste services that we have, so that it's not like an extra thing. Food waste is like 25% of the waste stream. So, like, if we could take out some of the wettest, heaviest, and bulkiest stuff in the waste stream, our landfills fill up slower, and we don't need to collect as much. And those trash trucks could have longer routes and, could service more of the community. So I think, like, there's a lot of systems savings to keeping food out of trash, let alone the benefits of keeping food in the food system.
One of the things, in thinking about, the transition to a net zero economy, building a sustainable economy, all of that, is that, sure, there's a part of the population that, sort of wants to do the right thing, so to speak, or, environmental concerns are top of mind. But at the end of the day, it feels like at scale, people buy products because they're cooler, faster, better.
You got it.
Right?
I mean, that was the Nest philosophy. Think about, like, the revolution that's happening in the vehicle space. Like,
yeah, sure.
Right, like a Tesla, an EV is a better car.
Right.
Like, it's quieter, it's smoother, it's faster, it's more comfortable, there's less maintenance. Like, it's a better car. And they started out expensive, and those prices are
Right,
coming
and they
down.
work
But
down.
like, if you could get a electric vehicle for the same price as like the gas car of the same size, like you're going to get the better car. And at Nest, like we made this beautiful round thermostat that worked really well and saved you money, and it's something that you would want to have in your house, like much better than the white plastic box that you used to have. Why would you go back to the ugly way, or like the way that wasn't as efficient? So like the way I think about the climate, like this climate transition we're making is, if we make the new products and new services just better, not just better for the planet, but like better for us, then that's what's going to drive adoption and drive this change. Like people don't want to be inconvenienced.
By the way, I have to share, my wife, when I first brought the mill into our kitchen, she said, if that thing smells, it's out of here by tomorrow, right? I mean, it's like,
My wife
let's get
too.
down to fundamentals.
That's
Yeah.
right. Like the basics are the most important. Like it has to be a better product experience. And the fact that it's better for the planet makes you feel good, but like having no smells in your kitchen, like that's the point.
Right, right. I mean, so you talked about how, as we think about building these products of our future, mimic previous behavior, make the new option, as you said, better, easier, more convenient than what came before. Use data, gamification, and feedback loops.
We hear a lot about like, AI and, kind of, a lot of AI behavior changes these days, but really like it's about, if we build product experiences that are sticky, that like keep you coming back, then like that makes the behavior change stick. And at Nest, we made this thermostat dial very easy to use, but we showed you this little green leaf. And the green leaf was there to say, hey, like you're doing the right thing, you're saving energy, and we'd send you a report every month of how many green leaves you earned. And like that kept people coming back for more. And then like they'd share with their friends on social media, like, hey, I got 30 green leaves this month. Like, and that also reinforced the behavior. This is really about like teaching people about these new behaviors. And with Mill, the behavior change we're asking is to put your food in this bin and not down the sink or in the trash. It's pretty minor. Like again, it's mimicking what you used to do. It feels about the same. But what's happening inside is totally different. But we want to reinforce that behavior. Like when it kind of greets you and like opens up and you're like, okay, cool, this thing is ready. And like in our family, in a lot of families, we personify it. Like in our house, we call it Oscar. It's like Oscar's hungry.
It has a name, a personality.
Yeah,
yes.
right. And this is all the kind of stuff that makes it sticky.
So for cities, and you mentioned, Miami-Dade County, which, the biggest county in Florida, and this, of course, Miami sits within Miami-Dade County. Landfill and pressures on our landfills is very real here, as it is in many, many other communities. For cities that, that care about this, how should they be thinking about this, about what you're doing, and about sort of this future that you're trying to help create?
The partnership with cities is so interesting. It's one of those rare areas where everyone's aligned. What Mill is doing is good for the planet, it's good for the cities, and it's good for the people in the city. So if I think about this from like the city's perspective, we're going to send less stuff to landfill. So our landfills fill up slower. We're going to save money. We're going to put less wet, gross, heavy stuff in our trash trucks. So we can be more efficient with our trash routes. That's a good savings. And then most importantly, if we're in people's homes and making it really easy to put food waste in this bin, we're encouraging participation. And that's actually the most important thing. I live out in the West Coast these days, and in San Francisco, we have a green bin for food waste. But if you like drive around on trash day, most green bins are empty. Like people don't use them because it's gross.
Wow.
They'd much rather throw it down the sink or in the trash. So if we're able to make it easier for people at home, then they'll actually participate and use these systems that we're creating.
Big picture, beyond even the sort of thing, now you're focused on addressing food waste, the whole transition to a sustainable net zero economy. How, in your view, is that going, and what do we need to do better?
I grew up in Florida, and I think about like in my childhood, we had a couple major, Category 4, Category 5 storms. Like Hurricane Andrew was like one of the seminal moments of my childhood, and like we heard then, hey, like as the planet gets warmer and oceans get warmer, the storms are going to get worse. And we're starting to see the effects of that. It feels like we're making progress, but not enough progress. Like, I'm an optimist. That's why I do the work that I do. Like, looking at the changes that we made in electric vehicles, like EVs are moving and they're faster, and like they're better and their costs are coming down. Or like what's happening in energy, like solar and wind are cheaper and better, and they're moving. There are a lot of areas that say are not moving as much. Like, we had a lot of work to do in agriculture and food systems. We got a lot of work to do in waste, but we're making progress. We've got to make more progress.
And your thesis, I assume, is that in so many of these areas that sustainability and economic development, economic growth can be completely aligned.
They have to be, actually.
They have to be.
They have to be. We're not going to be able to drive a $20 trillion transition if it's not economically feasible. It's got to be better, more efficient. Anything about like pollution and climate change is actually all about waste. It's all about inefficiency. So if we create systems that are more efficient, they are also good for the planet, and they're also good economically.
All right, last question. You know, with Opportunity Miami, this is a whole initiative around imagining the Miami of 2040. With all the work you're doing as you think about the world of 2040, what do you hope it looks like?
Yeah, by 2040, I hope we've made a significant strides towards the climate problem. Thinking about like, for the kids growing up in Miami today with big king high tides, where like there's actually like salt water in the streets. We can't have a future of 2040 where Miami's underwater. Like, that's the future we cannot have. So I think where we've tackled the climate crisis, and frankly, like we've done it in a way that has more jobs and more economic opportunity and more businesses. And I think Miami's at the forefront of this.
And I would assume that the world of 2040 is one where there is zero food waste in this world.
Yeah, when we got to move to a future of zero waste altogether. Again, like thinking about 2040 and beyond, we're not heading to our future of resource abundance. Like, we can't afford to waste half the food we grow.
Matt Rogers, thank you. We really appreciate it.
Pleasure.